We dated for a few years in high school. I ended up getting pregnant beginning of our senior year. He had already decided he was going to go into the Army, so I didn't know what to expect with that because my brother was in the Marines and I just knew he was going to be gone a lot. We had Chris and he is awesome. You know, and I tell him all the time, like, God brought you into this world at the perfect time. When Danny was gone, it was just he and I. You know, when we lived in North Carolina, it was just the three of us, and when he would have to go on deployments, you know, it was tough. You know, being a teenage parent, it's not like a glorious thing, you know, it's hard.
Before we even got pregnant, I already had I was already signed up to go into the military and go serve our country. And you know, when I went in, that's right around the time when 9/11 happened.
Give him that. You can walk. You can film it. Yeah.
And you know, I joined the military. Nobody ever has. Even though we're joining the military, we never really have plans of going to war. It's always in the back of your head, but you never really think it would ever happen. And so after they hit the buildings, I was there 2 weeks later, and I got to meet a lot of people, a lot of different stories that happen, a lot of different incidents that happen. In the military, when you come across a guy that's from the same state that you're in, you usually click, and you guys kind of hang around each other and you become good friends. And every night we'd be together. Every night we'd hang out, would have lunch together. We'd just kind of get to know one another. And this guy was going on leave. You're there for a year, and at your 6-month mark, you get to go home for 2 weeks and go visit your family and just kind of recoup to get back into the battle. We happen to be in an area where they don't fly out of, and you have to fly back to Baghdad in order to fly out at this time. And so he was on a helicopter, and he was actually flying back, and on the way back, they took fire from the ground, and they actually had an RPG that was shot at him. The helicopter had to do a maneuver to get away from it, and unfortunately there was another helicopter that was in the air. There was 2 of them, and the one helicopter crashed into the other, and nobody survived that accident. And so this was an incident that, just one more thing that I had to deal with, and while I'm over there, and the one thing that happens when you see stuff like that is that you start to think of your family and like, man, am I going to make it next week? Am I going to be able to go home and see it? And me having my son, being back home and not spending that much time, and me knowing that I didn't have my dad, it would always go through my head like, man, am I gonna be that guy? Am I gonna be the guy that he doesn't have a dad, or he never really knew his dad? Chris was only about 2, 3 at the time, so he knew who I was, but he didn't really know me, like, to set in those memories and be like, yeah, I remember my dad. And those are things that would always go through my head when I was out there. So after I came back from Iraq, I dealt with a lot of struggles, a lot of things that it was hard for me to adapt back into the regular world. Everything just seemed really slow to me. I couldn't, I would get a job and I would just get tired of it because it was just so routine, and there was really no excitement in it or anything like that. And I really struggled on trying to find a way to make it and trying to find a way to be like sane here, and so I started drinking a lot. We'd party a lot. I started turning into the very thing that I said that I would never be. Angel was always the one that was going to church, and she was always telling me like, come on, let's go, and I would find every excuse not to go. I would be like, oh, I don't have anything to wear, or I can't go, I was just like partying in the club last night, and then you want me to go to church on Sunday. It just, to me, I just came up with any excuse, and I was the type of guy that I knew about God, but I blamed him for everything that I didn't have or anything that went wrong. I didn't really know him, I just knew of him. So when we first moved out here to Southern California, I had this feeling, and the only way that I can explain this feeling is if somebody tells you that they're going to give you something, but they don't tell you when you're going to get it or what it is. We were going from like church to church and just trying to find where we can grow in God. So my cousin from Sacramento, I had met up with her, and I was telling her about this feeling that I was having, and she knew I was looking for a church. She knew, she went back home, and I guess there was a speaker that came out and spoke at Fearless, and the speaker went back to their church telling them, like, you know, how it was and the things that Fearless is doing, that it's an incredible church. And so she calls me and she lets me know about this church. She goes, hey, you got to check this out, man. This church it just sounds amazing. And she gives me the app. The whole time she was here, I mean, I was just listening to sermon after sermon after sermon. It was like, you know, this was the first time that I heard Pastor Jeremy speak.
When we got into the sanctuary, you know, and like the worship started and everything, I think I was crying like the whole time that we were in service.
I walk into the doors, and as soon as I walk in, I turn around, I look at her, and I said, this is it. And she just like looked at me like, what, are you sure? And I'm like, no, this is it. I mean, this feeling that I had that I was carrying around with me, when I walked in the door, it was gone. It was just gone. And I felt like this is where I belong. You know, this is where I was called to.
The whole service, it was just like, it just felt like the entire message was directed like straight at us, exactly what we were going through at that time. We've been at Fearless for almost 3 years, and we're all getting involved. We're serving in different areas. Dan in security, myself in kids, and Lily kids, Chris ushering. Josh will get him there soon. We really feel and we see that how powerful God is, and all the things that He's doing in our life and in our family, and not just here in Camarillo, but just everywhere in, you know, all of our family, wherever they are in the nation.